Hello, hello. Nice to see you. I think I'm gonna try to get this computer closer and blend enough as it is, and I can't see anyone. Okay, good. Ooh, Kote, are you streaming and doing all the things?
The streaming is already running and the recording is waiting for me to click.
Okay, good. For a second, I was like, oh no, did I forget to push the buttons? The buttons are always chasing me. Oh, Nick left. Why did Nick leave? Welcome back, Nick. I was just saying, why did Nick leave? No. Hi,
I guess
T.
I wasn't signed in.
Yeah. I was gonna make a joke about how well everyone, behave. Our owner is here, but then I thought I'm not gonna make you feel bad about it.
Oh, I forgot my water bottle. I'll be right back.
Okay, now that Vic is gone, we can talk. She's back.
Vic, what's the name of your orange cat?
His name is Kane.
Oh,
Kane. And but I think Bjorn calls him Neko Roshi.
Neko
So
Roshi, yes.
so
does
yes,
look very wise when he sits with you. I'm like, look at it, he's sitting so well.
yeah. All my cats have been named after like sword and sorcery fictional book characters, and so he's named in that vein. And he doesn't
Apparently,
swallow very much, though. He mostly sleeps.
That's good. So he sounds, Kane is an imposing name and he looks not very imposing.
He's not. He's currently under a blanket in the chair, like living his best life. So
Mm.
that's because you all haven't seen him observing our zazen. Because you're staring at the screen when the Zazenkai is happening, but when I went back to the recording, Neko Roshi was entirely judging all of our sittings. So very strange.
Checking our posture.
what's your cat's name, Chico?
This is Benjamin,
Uh-huh.
and his brother is Henry. And apparently now is the time for them to be very awake. A little too awake, if you ask me.
Hi, Shinkan. Kote, you want to push all the buttons to get everything started? We're already like a minute.
Hello.
Hello. Well, I don't know if we should give maybe 30 seconds more to see if anyone else pops in. Oh no. Now there's a notification on my screen and I'm like cross-legged far away from it. Wish me luck, everyone. Nobody tells
I hope
you
you don't mind, but I might be unavailable just cleaning while I listen, if that's all right with you guys.
Yes. Hey, Jason. Well, I'm just going to welcome all of you to this fourth precept. What should we call it? Discussion meeting, I guess. We've had different names. Now that we have the weekly one too, I don't know what to call them anymore. So, choose the name for it. But it's our fourth monthly precept discussion. This closes our series for this year's Ango. And this is the first time we've done this. in an organized manner in our Sangha. And let me just preface this by saying it was probably the most beneficial thing for me that I've experienced in a long, long time when it comes to deepening my understanding of the precepts and of how others practice with the precepts and see the precepts. So this has been an invaluable experience. Hello, welcome. So I hope it was the same for you, but we can talk about it in the discussion part of this meeting today. So maybe for the beginning, I'm going to invite you to take a step back for a second, wherever you are right now. Don't need to adjust to do anything. Put down for a minute all of the concerns of the day, all of the thoughts and whatever it is that you that's on your brain in this particular moment of the day. Let's just sit here quietly in awareness and presence for a couple of minutes. And then maybe this gives everyone the opportunity to, well, someone else the opportunity to come in. And then we can get right down to it, if that's okay with you. I don't have a bell here, so it's okay. We can do it without bells. It's fine, Kote. You don't worry about it. Let's just sit for a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, ding. Well, again, thank you for being here to all of you. Signal me if you can't hear me properly. If I break up or something, let me know. Okay. So, oh, see, now I got to reach out and change the view because I need to see people. The stresses of how do I do that? Okay, wait a second. Gallery. Oh, there we go. My apologies. Okay. So you know the topic for today's talk and meeting, which is living the precepts in today's world. I think I'm privileged and fortunate this time. The other priests have gotten into the different aspects of specific precepts, and I'm given all of them and be like, okay, sum it up. So I feel I have the easy task today with you. I also, I'm fairly confident that whatever I say to you today is merely reminders. Don't expect anything earth-shattering new. I wish, but I can't. So I guess the more common thing within our tradition specifically is reminders. And maybe less words than you would expect to find in other contexts, right? To try to use a lot of words to explain things kind of tries to trap ideas and concepts into these fixed forms. And a fixed form means we can attach to it, so it becomes an object of clinging. So in Zen, we kind of limit a little bit of the words used. Not too much though. There's a lot of books on Zen. So, because we've spent these 4 months almost now talking about the precepts, specifically about practical applications of the precepts, I think all of you here have done a wonderful job at investigating and taking the precepts and turning them upside down and inside out and finding practical applications in day-to-day life situations of what they look like, you know, which is what the object of our study was, primarily, I guess, in these almost 4 months. I wouldn't say we've exhausted the topic of practical applications. You know, there's a thing that I always say, those of you that come to Fusatsu often know, but I always say that the precepts are as vast as our lives are. So you cannot possibly exhaust the applications and the practical examples of what it means to live the precepts. But because we've spent so much talking about that, I thought maybe today I'm going to take a step backwards and not look necessarily at that embodied form of the precepts, but shine the light a little bit on the essence, the nature of them. And my hope is that, and this is a big hope, that at the end of whatever ramblings I'm offering here today, which I apologize for in advance, I'm glad to be among friends and family. You know me well enough now, so I'm going to be rambling, but I hope that you take something away from this discussion today and from what we talk about that helps you stand in front of your preceptor in January, and when you say yes, yes, yes to the question, will you seek to keep this precept from now until the end of your life? There's a deeper understanding of what it is that you're committing to and what it is that you're saying yes to. So, those of you that come to the Fusatsu know that we always begin with the preface from the precepts from the Brahmanet Sutra. And the reading starts with the great precepts of Gautama Buddha were kept by all Buddhas. They were passed down from Buddha to Buddha. Master Gautama passed them down to Master Mahakaccapa. Master Mahakaccapa passed them down to Master Ananda. And so forth until me. Those are Master Dogen's words, by the way, in parts of the ceremony. Those words are reflected in the Brahmanet Sutra at the beginning and in Master Dogen's Gyoju Kaimon, which is a very short little essay that presents the Bodhisattva precepts. And both of those things are equally recited in the Fusatsu ceremonies within our Soto Zen tradition, and they both present the same story. The story is that Shakyamuni Buddha, enlightened, awakened underneath the Bodhi tree, among the first things he taught was the Bodhisattva precepts. Now, bubble burster in action. Historically, that's not really accurate. That's, as far as we know about the history, we don't have anything written down by the Buddha himself. Everything is a couple of centuries after his death. But the sources that we nowadays take as being reliable and sort of closest to whatever the Buddha might have taught, that story is not historically accurate. The Buddha didn't quite teach that underneath the Bodhi tree, not with words. But there is a reason we tell that story. There is a reason that story exists, and it has to do precisely with the nature of the precepts. When we say precepts, what do you think about? Do you picture in your minds the words, refrain from harm, refrain from lies, refrain from intoxication? Is that what you think of when you hear precepts? Because I would like us to step further than that. When the stories say these great precepts were passed down by Gautama Buddha, what we're actually saying is that the source of the precepts, the origin of the precepts, is awakening itself. Underneath the Bodhi tree, when Shakyamuni Buddha was awakened to the reality of interdependence, emptiness, egolessness, that gives rise to the precepts. And not to the wording of the precepts. That's what I'm trying to point to. Not to the specific words of refrain from this and refrain from that. It gives rise to this reality of what embodied awakening looks like. There's another thing that I like to say very often because I'm like a broken record, which is there is no enlightenment aside from everyday life. There is no awakening outside of how we live our lives. What do we picture awakening to be? Enlightenment to be? Some fantastic mental activity, moments, flash of light. I don't know. What is it? But what does it look like when a Buddha lives? What does an awakened person live like, act like? Well, you know what a Buddha acts like. A Buddha refrains from harming others. A Buddha does what is good, does what is good for others. A Buddha refrains from untruth. A Buddha refrains from intoxication. You want me to continue? There's 16 of these precepts, and actually the complete number of the precepts available for bodhisattvas, like the Bodhisattva precepts in the Brahmanet Sutra, is much larger. It is above 50. I did not think I would say this in the talk, so I did not look up the exact number. You can do that yourselves. It's over 50 precepts, and they're kind of divided in between the major ones and then the minor ones. And the ones that we take are the 10 first of these precepts, accompanied by the three pure precepts and the devotions or taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And so the 10 precepts are nothing else than the ethical aspects of the Dharma itself that the Buddha was awakened to. They are beyond formulations of words. They're beyond moral imperatives. And the way I like to think about this, and maybe this is helpful, is any of you that have studied anything, and all of us have studied something, but imagine you've studied nutrition or medicine, and you have deep insight into, for example, what food does to the body, and how the body handles food, and the different types of, I don't know, vitamins and proteins and everything. Once you've studied that, and once you've had deep insight into that, the way you exist is fundamentally changed. The way you eat is probably fundamentally changed. You don't need a specific set of rules that say, eat this for that, eat this for that, don't eat. Yeah, I don't think it works like that. It's more like there's a deep understanding of the functioning of body, nutrients, the food, the whole process. And when we operate from that understanding. And so when we talk about the precepts, I think it's useful to think about them like that. When someone is awakened to the reality of interdependence, emptiness, egolessness, what manifests naturally? What kind of action manifests naturally? So I think if we compare, we realize how the Bodhisattva precepts are different from like the monastic rules, the Vinaya, if some of you are familiar with that. Depending on the tradition you talk to, they could put more emphasis on one set of rules or the other, right? You can say, well, historically, what the Buddha put down were the monastic rules, the Vinaya. Right? The Buddha didn't specifically teach the 16 Bodhisattva precepts. That's kind of in retrospect, centuries later, when the Brahmanet Sutra was written around the 5th century, our Common Era, that was the sum of the realizations and insights of so many practitioners, generations and generations of practitioners that look back at serious, devoted practice and went, well, wait a minute, that can be written down in a codified form. Like we can put that down on paper. But the monastic rules that the Buddha laid down, when the Buddha was enlightened and stepped away from the Bodhi tree, he did not have a monastic order ready. He did not have a system put in place to say, okay, you get ordained this way, and then you behave this way and that way. No. He had a knowledge, an understanding, an awakening. And he went to others and said, hey, listen, here's the noble truths and here's the Eightfold Path. Walk this. It wasn't too complicated in that sense. Well, the task that he gave his renunciants as he was ordaining them, he said, do you understand a little bit of this? Yes, okay, now go practice it. What does that practice look like? I think we can think of the precepts in terms of when someone practices in accordance with the Dharma, what happens is that they act in accordance with the precepts, right? We already established, the precepts and awakening are the same thing. But what happened? The Buddha had a community of humans. And so it didn't take very long before wisdom came accompanied by delusion, which is, our existence, the nature of being human. And so as people were making errors and trying to find loopholes, I think we talked about this at our precept discussion on Wednesday, as they were trying to find loopholes within what is allowable or not allowable, the Buddha had to sit down and be like, okay, don't do this. And then they came back and they said, okay, but what if we change a little bit? Can we still do it? Okay, you can do it. Okay, now don't do it. And so like that for 200 and something occasions. But I argue that when the Buddha laid down the Vinaya, the monastic rules, they are nothing other than the precepts in different instances of application. The Vinaya did nothing but kind of help the renunciants keep the peace, interact with each other, interact with society, be truthful, be honest, be earnest in their practice, be generous. Oh, it almost sounds like the precepts. It almost sounds like the Eightfold Path, doesn't it? So, to look at the precepts themselves, when we think about the three pure precepts, for example, we say, refrain from harm. That's the first one, right? That's embracing morals, embracing ethics. I would argue and say that that's the refrain from part. That's where the Vinaya comes from. It corresponds in a way to that particular precept. Embrace morality, embrace ethics. The second one is do what's good. The third one is do what's good for others. This is where the Bodhisattva precepts arise from. When I say the Bodhisattva precepts, I mean the 10 or the 50 something. And so they're not actually different things. They're not actually separate things. We can say that to keep the precepts as an ongoing practice is none other than nurturing the seeds that help us actualize Buddha. Awakening is something to be actualized, is something to be manifested in day-to-day activities. Like we've talked about this for 4 months, the different aspects of the precepts. But the precepts are not necessarily concerned with actions, with the actions themselves. It's really not about the lie you tell, the glass of wine, or that one time I went down and partied too much. It's really not about that. We call them the precepts of the mind. And so that's an invitation for us to look beyond, way beyond just the simple actions themselves. Because they're concerned with the mind, when we talk about studying the Bodhisattva precepts, we talk about looking beyond the rules themselves towards ourselves and examining ourselves. Where do we stand in relation to those precepts? When we begin the Jukai ceremony, when we take the precepts, the first ones that we begin with are devotion to Buddha, devotion to Dharma, devotion to Sangha. Or you can say taking refuge in the Buddha, taking refuge in the Dharma, taking refuge in the Sangha. When I say devotion to Buddha, I don't mean devotion to Shakyamuni Buddha, to Gautama Buddha, to the person that lived 2,500 years ago. I mean devotion to awakening. When I say devotion to Dharma, I mean devotion to the reality of interdependence, egolessness, emptiness. And when I say devotion to Sangha, it's the community of like-minded people that walk in the same direction that we do. And so when we take refuge at the beginning of our path, let's call it like that, as bodhisattvas, we're given the precepts as guidelines for our lives. And so, given these precepts and being told this is what it looks like to realize the Buddha way, we're given a chance to examine ourselves in relation to the precepts. To study the precepts, we learn how to ask the right questions. It's not about learning how to keep a rule and force ourselves into specific actions, but rather going beyond and engaging with the precepts in the correct way. Where does it come from? Actions reflect either awakening or delusion. But when we commit to the precepts, when we stand up and we say, yes, 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 to, will you seek to keep this precept from now till the end of your life? There's one thing that I think we should all remember. We're not committing to perfection. This is not about being perfect for the rest of your lives. This is not about impeccable behavior. This is a commitment to awareness. It's a commitment to returning always to the guidelines, to the understanding of the source of the precepts. This is kind of like talking about Zazen. Zazen is not about always being in a specific state of mind. It's not about keeping, the mind empty or anything like that. No. Zazen is from the beginning until the end a continuous return. Body, mind are here. Now I'm having dinner with my friend somewhere and I'm thinking about, okay, I'm back. Return to the breath, return to the posture, return to here, to now. It's a whole process. It's a whole going and coming back. And keeping in the precepts, the work with the precepts, it's like that as well. I make a mistake, okay, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. It's not about that. It's let me ask the right questions about why that happened. Let me remember what I've committed to. And also, think of the precepts in the sense of working continuously for the benefit of others. That's why they're the Bodhisattva precepts. That's why they stem from the third of the pure ones. Do what is good for others. I think I've given this example a few days ago in our precept discussion, but for example, when you talk about the precept of intoxication, in the original Brahmanet Sutra formulation, that's literally just about selling alcohol. That's what it is. It's the precept of do not sell alcohol. The precept about drinking alcohol is in the minor precepts. We don't even, they didn't even take that. Nowadays, we've expanded the precept about intoxication, right? But that should tell us something about what the perspective is within Soto Zen. It is much worse from this perspective to lead others to suffering, to becoming deluded, to becoming harmful by creating karma conditions and causes for them to become intoxicated than it is for us to become intoxicated, for example. That was the perspective in that particular moment in time. And that clarifies a little bit what we're looking towards. We're looking towards benefiting all beings. And if we remember, the precepts come from the awakening, from the realization of interdependence. To work for the benefit of all beings is to work for our benefit as well. And to practice wholeheartedly ourselves is to practice wholeheartedly for the benefit of all beings. It's not separate, cannot separate it. And when we talk about Commitment to awareness. I want you to remember that you are continuously supported. Our Soto Zen practice is a container that continuously supports this return to awareness when it comes to keeping the precepts, when it comes to practice. Zazen, yes, I'm going to end on that note, but the ceremony, the forms that we engage in, they don't use words to explain to us that they're an exercise in awareness and presence and mindfulness, but they are. The entirety of the system of how we practice in Soto Zen is meant to nurture this commitment to awareness that we have, to return continuously. When you walk into a Zendo, we put down preferences, likes, and dislikes. When I say Zendo, this as well, here, all of us, all of you. We come here, we put down the preferences, our likes, dislikes, our need to do things the way we like them, the way we want them. And we hold our hands just like that and bow just like this, and then turn to the right and then walk like this. And when the bell rings, we do this, and when the bell rings, we do that. And it's awareness. And then we engage in ceremony together. And from the beginning till the end, we do nothing but prostrate ourselves in front of previous generations of practitioners. We prostrate ourselves to honor those that have supported our practice, those that continue to support our practice, and those that will support our practice. And after sitting or before sitting, again, we bow and we prostrate ourselves and we dedicate anything beneficial that we've done to the well-being of all beings everywhere. So whenever we engage in practice in a Soto Zen context, it nurtures those seeds in us. The 10 major precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in improper sexual conduct, not to lie, not to deal in intoxicants or intoxicate ourselves, mind or body, not to criticize others, not to praise self and slander others, not to be stingy with the Dharma or our property, being generous, not to become angry, and not to disparage the 3 treasures. This is what we commit to. And if you want to know what it feels like to be in line with those precepts, the next time you approach your cushion, the next time you gasho and then you sway left and right, take a deep breath and then sit. Remember, Zazen is the fundamental activity of Buddhas. You're taking care of the activity of Buddha. If Zazen is practice realization of awakening, and the precepts have as source awakening, then engaging in Zazen wholeheartedly with no gaining mind allows you to experience the keeping of the precepts. And then we get up, we bow to the cushion. I always say, bow to the cushion, fluff the cushion, turn to the right, bow again, and then walk out of the Zendo, live life, and practice with the precepts. That's how we take Zazen off our cushion. It's not about taking an axe pick to our insides and chipping away at whatever we think is bad within us. It's rather nurture the right seeds instead of the unskillful things, mind qualities. So I hope that in January, when you put your rakusus on and you say yes, 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 every time you're asked, will you seek to keep this precept from now until the end of your life? You do that wholeheartedly and confidently, knowing that You're supported by the Buddha, supported by the Dharma, supported by the Sangha, and all you have to do is come back to awareness always. Nobody expects you to be perfect. You just have to be committed. And I think I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings. And the floor is open for all of you to say whatever's on your minds. We've done this, some of us, every week now, well, a couple of weeks now. We've done this for 4 months together. What is your stance right now after 4 months of non-stop pondering and non-stop thinking about the precepts and discussion? How do you feel about these precepts? Feel free to open your microphones and just don't talk over each other, but feel free to express yourselves.
So maybe I start. No one else wants. But there are those moments where you get to remember something you read 10 years ago, and you gave me such a moment. I remembered Robert Aitken in Mind of Clover writing about the precepts, the precept not to be stingy with the Dharma. And he framed it in a way that he said that this is the positive turn, if you want so, of all the other precepts. All the other precepts are telling you what not to do. And this, to not be stingy with the Dharma, is meaning to positively act out the positive side of all the other precepts beforehand. And I don't know, I somehow felt that Bjorn talked about that today.
Oh, thank you. I didn't
So.
realize. I didn't. It's fun, isn't it? We've always talked about these precepts, and we always somehow return to, okay, but what does a person do then? Yeah, when you refrain from lying, what do you do? You tell the truth. Okay, what's the truth? Go ahead, Seikan.
Yeah, great talk. First of all, I think that was
Thank you very much.
that was a wonderful way to sort of pull everything together across the months and the other discussions. And really not to say anything new, but just what you said in the talk and what Kote just touched on too. I kept thinking about that during the talk about how when we're first exposed to the precepts, they're framed in a more negative way. What not to do, don't do this, don't do that, and for good reason. I mean, you need some guidance. We need some structure to how to align ourselves with, with the Dharma, with the path. I feel like as we practice, hopefully, they become more positive. We're not going out there. When I go shopping this afternoon, I'm not thinking, okay, make sure I don't lie to anybody, make sure I don't kill anybody. It's more of just, how do I embody the Bodhisattva way? It's more of just, am I doing good? Am I speaking truthfully, or not speaking at all? Maybe is the right speech at certain times. It's interesting just seeing how they do evolve with practice to be more of just that positive aspect of each of them. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I don't want to. I could ramble on and on about that, and I won't. But it's just, I think you had a great way. You said it more eloquently about how that just sort of just naturally unfolds. As we take that practice off the cushion into the rest of our lives. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I like the idea of. Oh, sorry. I like the idea of, when you think of the precepts, it's like if you have to put a form to awakened activity, awakened living, it kind of nicely matches with. And to me, that's a good way to look at it.
I think I agree with that. I see the precepts kind of as like a foundation of practice almost out in the world. I mean, and we sit zazen and we do our ceremonies and all that, and that's our practice. But then when we go out in the world, the precepts are the foundation of our practice. And I like what you said, Seikon, about it's starting out sort of negative as a, prohibitions, don't do this, don't do this. And then it's sort of and you start out that way, and then it's sort of it transforms a little bit, like, well, don't be stingy. Well, the positive flip side of that is, how can I be generous? Don't lie. Well, the flip side of that is, how can I be authentic? And I think it kind of boils down to the three pure precepts, which is to avoid harm, and all the don't is avoiding harm. And then doing good is the flip side of the don'ts. Don't be stingy is avoiding harm. Be generous is do good. And then expanding on that, do good for all beings.
Exactly. Excellent. I think ultimately it still boils down to nurturing, watering the right seeds, right? Like when we're given a codified, because I mean, the precepts are in codified form. And it's interesting, we've looked on Wednesday at our precept discussion, we've looked at a particular wording of the precept on stinginess from the Brahmanet Sutra. And nowadays when we take the precepts, we say, refrain from stinginess. In the Brahmanet Sutra, the formulation of the precepts is, a disciple of the Buddha must not. And so I think that offers a nice kind of, because then it balances it out. Like if you have a chance to look at the whole formulation, it balances out that with, there's a need for wisdom. Like that's what we're relying on here, the wisdom that comes from awakening. But they do offer a good container for practicing with them, right? It gives us a little clear indication of what to do if we need to engage in something, or what not to do if we should refrain from something. I remember there's this one fascicle from Master Dogen. I don't remember exactly where it's from. Maybe Kote has more memory for that than I do. But Master Dogen talks about precisely this. Release the necessity to cling to the strict letter of the precepts, and understand that it's not about forcing yourself into keeping this and keeping that and keeping that. It goes beyond that. It goes to awareness, to the mind. It goes to where it originates from. And then he says, however, for someone that's a bit new, or for someone that's a little inexperienced, or for someone that's at the beginning of their Buddhist journey, it's completely fine to stick by the letter, by the rules, until they understand through lived experience. I mean, that's what it's about, right? Through lived experience, I understand what it means to be honest, to be truthful, to respect life, to work for the benefit of others, to not praise myself and slander others, and so on and so forth.
I've
Chico, you gonna
noticed
say something?
having been away for a while, after taking Jukai, it occurs to me how the discussion is the same 10 years later. And of course it is, because it's been the same discussion for 2,000 years plus, right? And I think, having had opportunity over these years to do things the wrong way, the precepts have been this kind of mirror that you can hold up to your actions and say, being fundamentally complete, already having an enlightened nature, how does this behavior actually take me away from that fundamental nature? So as you said earlier, less of a prescription and more of you know a description of how we would behave in the world if we were expressing our true nature unhindered.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
I was also going to say, kind of along those same lines, like it's been almost a year for me now since I took Butai, and I've had some major changes in my life, partly because of that, and also just like change is inevitable, it's the one constant, right? But within that, you act certain ways, and some of them you act skillfully, kind of like you were saying, John, and some you act unskillfully. And the way that I look at the precepts is they're like breadcrumbs. Um, they will always lead you home, especially when
They're
you.
like, what? Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
I said they're like breadcrumbs. They'll always lead you home. Even like especially when you act unskillfully, um, you can always turn to them. They're always there because to go what you said, they're within you already. So, but anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, that's also a lovely way to put it, like breadcrumbs. Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. You still got that sound thing that's happening with the microphone. I think might be some noise canceling or something. But I think we heard you. Go ahead, Shinkan. Go ahead.
First of all, hello everybody, and thanks for that great talk, Bjorn.
Oh, thank you.
And I would like to thanks for Kote for bringing up Aiken, which is always a good. He's always a good standard text to refer back to, and all these things remind me of what everybody's talking about. Is I've gone to sessions in quite a few different places, and I've talked with some really great teachers, and it was just the funniest thing. So I'm sitting there with Sojin Mel Weitzman at Berkeley Zen Center, and I'm like, oh, I'm worried. I'm saying all these things and repeating everything that a beginning practitioner says, and he just looks at me, Zazen, and then clapped his hands, and that was time for me to leave the Dokusan. And then I'm in um, up in Rochester Zen Center, and the teacher there at the time, she said, "Oh, you know what it is? Zazen. Zazen's it. End of Dokusan. Boom. I'm out. I'm out the door." This was just a few years ago, and already been practicing 20 years. And then I remember going to One Drop Monastery, Harada Roshi, who's got uh, Zendo's places all over. And I'm just sitting there, and then the translator, wonderful, she's a teacher too, was great. And then all of a sudden, I just say a few words, and then Harada Roshi in a very Japanese manner, because so when you're in like Dokusan for Renzai, I was fully prostrated on the floor with my head down, but talking to the teacher. And then after like three sentences, he just shouts, Zazen. And he points out the door, and I have to get up and run out the door, which I cannot do. And so I get up and scurry as I can. And and it's just funny how much that although we cast about through all these rules and refer back to them, oh, this sees me through it, whatever. Um, this is what I concentrate on my mala beads when I say whatever. Some people do it that way. I return to this. The thing is the manifestation of our embodied practice, like you said, is what the revealing answer is. And it seems it's something I've returned back to now and then. And then I I don't have questions anymore because as soon as I get into I know the teacher's going to say Zazen now. Um, yeah, whether you read Vasubandhu's Yogacara, you go into all this stuff in Lojong, Zazen. So that's the best thing ever, isn't it? Zazen. And I just wanted to bring that up because this, as we draw to a close, it's just been like the one anchor for me that has seen me pass through the few weeks where sometimes I couldn't stand, sometimes I couldn't sleep, and whatever. But thank you for that. And the Zazen is where we always return. Thank you, Bjorn.
Thank you very much. Yeah, ultimately, that's the container that within our tradition we chose and we employ for this connection with realization, with, to verify awakening, to verify enlightenment. That's the way we engage with that. T, go ahead.
I think Vic had her mic unmuted first.
No worries. I mean,
You
it's
go.
all
You go.
okay.
You can talk over each other if you would like to make it funny for everyone.
Okay, so all I was gonna say was also, like everyone else, thank you so much for the talk. It was great. And then what stands out to me about the precepts at the close, as we're coming to the close of this period, is when I came into this, I had this kind of perspective of them that probably is strongly informed by the culture I was raised in and whatnot, where it's very commandment, like it's don't do this, thou shalt not, don't. And I thought, okay, I'm committing to a bunch of don'ts. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm really okay with this. And as we've studied them, and I've really kind of started to kind of begin to get my head around them, what I see them more now is almost like if you go to a bowling alley, you can put the little bumpers down to keep from getting a gutter ball. Like these little bumpers will come down over the gutters on either side of the bowling lane, so that if you throw the ball widely askew, it doesn't end up in the gutter. It'll head down toward the end where the pins are, and you're at least somewhat on target. Maybe you won't, get a strike, but you're at least pointed in the right direction. And to me, the precepts feel like that. They're like, if I'm feeling unsure about what I need to be doing, I can look at that and it'll kind of bounce me back onto at least the generally right direction. And so I don't have much bowling experience, so the metaphor is probably poor, but there we are. So
I think we got it. I think it was perfectly adequate. Right?
I love that analogy. That's a great one.
Someone was talking. Go ahead, T. Go.
No. I interrupted again. You go.
No, it's fine. I went enough. You go now.
Oh, okay, fine. I really like the bowling analogy. It's very like, oh yeah. But also first, everyone, thank you for Bjorn for the excellent talk and the good discussion. I'm feeling very fortified. I don't know what other word to use for it, but I was having I was having a conversation with a friend recently, and I was trying to think. They really like Lord of the Rings. And I was thinking of ways like how could I explain this to them, like this path to them in a way that's sort of relatable. And what you said about returning to awareness was when we sit in Zazen, I was like, that's it. It's there and back again. We always come back. And I was then, of course, thinking about Lord of the Rings characters and the Bodhisattva path. In a world where sometimes we feel like Frodo Baggins, I think we want to be Samwise Gamgee. And he's not perfect, but he's kind and he's hardworking and he looks out for others. And I just, so thank you for the connection in my brain for that.
If I could go back in time right now, I would definitely put a Lord of the Rings reference inside the talk. I should have prepared more. Oh, thank you very much.
You had it there. It was there already. So,
well,
thank you.
I accept it. There's one thing that I appreciate very much, and I think I brought this up before right at the beginning. When you think precepts and you think a specific form, it's almost like what Master Dogen says in Fukan Zengi. You're still just merely playing at the entranceway. When you think of a specific form of the precept in the sense of words and concepts, we're still missing the mark. The precepts can be refrained from, they also can be do. They also can have no concepts attached to them. To hear them presented as a disciple of the Buddha does not lie. A disciple of the Buddha does not take life. Or a Buddha is honest. A Buddha speaks like this, acts like that. That to me offers, like everyone here said, kind of more of a mirror, more than a set of absolute rules. Go ahead, someone else. Don't be shy. You're never shy, all of you. There's a hand. Patrick.
You said something. First of all, this was absolutely lovely. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
You said something along the lines, what do you picture the precepts within your mind? And this was about the wording and such. And I thought immediately, I don't picture the words. For me, it translates more into sort of a gut feeling, if you will. The precepts are translating into a gut feeling. So what do they mean? What do I understand about them? What do they mean for my path, for life itself, as in being more aware, be more honest, be more compassionate, be available towards myself, but also towards others and towards my failures. Because I think repair is also a very important part of all of this. Because if you break a precept, don't think about it as, oh no, I broke a precept, it's a failure. It's only a failure if you don't make the effort to repair. If you don't look there and put the finger, so to speak, where the awkward truth lies. I think that's a takeaway I took away from those words. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, who is it? Okumura Roshi that says that we live our lives, or as practitioners at least, between vow and atonement. It's a natural, practically speaking, realistically speaking, I walk out of the house and 85%, 90% of the times, I look at myself and I go, that was not enlightened action at all. That was not enlightened speech at all. Or I would just stop in my tracks and go, why have I said that? Why did I do that? Now that I hear it, now that it's processed, I go, I should have just stayed at home, right? Like that. So that awareness, it's there. It pops up. So there's the reason why we have the precepts to also practice with them, not to know them, just to know. I know the precept. Yeah, how do you practice with them in day-to-day life? Come on, someone else. Be brave.
I'll go.
There you go.
It's nice to be with the Sangha this morning. Beyond, thank you for the talk.
Thank you very much for being here.
I'd like to echo a little bit about what Patrick said when you mentioned what are the precepts to you? What do you think of them as? And I agree. Like one of the things that a phrase that stuck out or has stayed with me from the readings over this period has been, it's better to take the precepts and break them than not to take them at all. And I think when I think about what do they mean or what do they look like in my mind, it's, I've heard it said maybe in the group or maybe it was in the readings that it's like a North Star, or maybe it's the moon, or maybe it's the finger pointing at the moon. But the guidepost, if you will, is something that I like and I feel like allows me to fully lean into it, into the commitment, knowing that I don't have to maintain perfection in order to succeed at it.
Thank you. That's a great observation. I would throw the word devotion at you all, because that's how we start. Devoted to Buddha, devoted to Dharma, devoted to Sangha. What does that mean? Go ahead, Josh.
So I really liked the idea of, I think you mentioned asking the right questions. And so like, you coming from the idea of like, okay, if you have this perspective of the precepts as commandments, or like I'm breaking the commandments, then I think that sort of leads you to ask questions of, well, why am I such a bad person? Why like what, and that's, I think it's just, not only is it not productive, I don't think it aligns with reality, but asking the question of, okay, well, I don't see that as enlightened action. What idea am I holding on to that's causing me to have that delusion? Or what can I let go of that is gonna make this more skillful, or something like that? Or what seeds am I watering that have make me feel this way about this person? Or I think is probably much more interesting than just beating myself up about it all the time.
Again, I'm going to throw the same word in the mix. When you say devotion to Dharma, devotion to the reality of interdependence, then it begs the question, how much division, separation, and duality am I fabricating in this very moment? And how much am I operating from this duality and division and separation in my mind? Right? I'm devoted to the Dharma. I'm devoted to embodying it. So, the right question, maybe it's not like you said, why am I such an awful person? You're not an awful person. But rather, what am I nurturing that's manifesting this way? What should I be nurturing that manifests in a beneficial way? Come on, someone else. Go T, go T, go T.
Oh, I always have things to say. So as soon as you said devotion, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that word. But then I started thinking a little bit more about what does that word actually mean to me? Because devotion, I think, especially in religious practice, I think can have a connotation of sort of blind faith. When I hear that word, that's my first gut reaction of what that is. But then as I thought about it, I was like, when I think of devotion, I actually think of taking care. So taking care of Buddha, taking care of Dharma, taking care of Sangha. And what would I do if I wanted to take care of this in a sort of like a kind and loving way rather than a blind faith type way? And I think that's, I don't know, that's interesting progress for me to think that way. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Madhu, go ahead. Go ahead. I was hoping to hear from you. Where are you? I can't see. Oh, there you go.
I have appreciated very much what you said about devotion, because I have struggled a long time with this self-preoccupied sense. Oh, I'm not keeping the precepts. Oh, I'm blowing it up, and I thought that is like another side of my self-cherishing, my self-importance. And my way out of that, I don't know if you mean the same, but for me it was the way seeking, the mind that seeks the way. So in there, if I trust that in myself, there is no room to feel bad. I'm doing my best. I trust that. And I keep taking the precepts. I don't know for how many years until I die. I will keep taking them. And that's fine. Thank
That's
you, Bjorn.
Thank you very much. That's beautiful. The way seeking. See, that was part of what I was gonna mention in the talk, but again, I would have needed 2 hours or something like that. The way seeking mind. That's beautiful. Thank you, Mado. Because what we seek is to realize the Buddha way. You don't seek to keep the precepts. By seeking to realize the Buddha way, the precepts become manifested, actualized. Totally different thing, right? There you go, Ian. You can do it. There you go.
Wonderful talk as usual. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for being here. Could I just ask my friend Zinkan, what probably a loaded question, but what did you think when these masters just simply said to you, Zazen, Zazen, Zazen? What implication did you take from that? I hope it's the same as mine.
Well, it was interesting that that answer came when I first received Jukai at the Berkeley Zen Center. That was from Sojin Waroshi, 2014. And he said that so my academic training is a lot of philosophy and theology. And then I take that mindset with me, and then I go into the precepts. I read everything. I read as much as I can that goes into the background, whatever. And I'm going through this, and I'm like, oh, this is almost like, Abrahamic law and sets and that, and reading Hebrew and Greek and whatnot. The thing is that as much as we are fastidious about studying and going through, it was not to worry about the understanding of the precepts or whatever, but that it's through our practice that this comes out. And it will naturally manifest as we practice as time goes on. And then with the other teachers, because I eventually started getting out of my head, right? I started getting this thing. And it's with the way seeking mind, as Maro says. If we go into this thing of just a renewal every year and the way seeking mind talk, the manifestation of our practice is very simple, and that it's simply it comes out through our sitting, our zazen, and that actually informs the rest of our reality and existence. And then when we read Dogen, and I take that mindset into the background, standing, walking, sitting, or lying down during one's all waking hours, but also when we're asleep too, it does come to affect our sleep also. So it's eventually when we have the basics down and we practice those every day, and we have to return to them because of how like Bjorn said, I went outside and I didn't want to say that or whatever, but as time goes on, that occurs less and less, and then the amount of time we spend outside of the of the of the reality of the person whom we are thinking we are practicing to be, it actually becomes more and more of it. And perfection, forget perfection. That's what it means. What it means is just that you have the fundamentals and you keep practicing and practicing, and we always bring that out and with our way seeking mind. And so Zazen.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your answer. Yeah, I think that you yourself, Bjorn, I think said you probably didn't want to get too wordy about things, and because as I say, I mean, I'm with Shinkan on this. I think if you sit zazen, You learn, as you said yourself, to continually come back to the present moment. You drift away, you think about what you're going to have for tea, and you come back again. And then you do that when you come off the cushion. You're wandering down the street thinking, oh, where am I going to get my new shoes from today? And you come back to the present moment again and think, hang on a minute. I remember earlier the other week, I listened to a talk by Hojo France over at 1000 Hours Zen. And he said, whatever you do, don't measure your practice. But if you are going to measure your practice, typical of him, then be aware of how many times you drift off and you come back again. And you drift off and you come back again. Because when you come back again and you're there now, that's when you're in your Buddha nature. When things should hopefully just come naturally, or maybe not. So there you go. I'm going to go and sit now.
Well, they eventually come naturally.
I think,
Yeah, what do we think is that, it's unnatural, we're not going, but the thing is the more practice and everything, it's like when you playing an instrument, right?
Yeah.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so very easy to engage in a continuous, unstoppable mental exercise. What does it mean? Conceptualizing. But Master Dogen said, when you sit in Zazen, it's beyond that conceptual thinking. So that's a lived experience. I know in my bones with the sitting what that feels like, what not to be engaged in dividing the world is. When we sit in Zazen, where we're grounded is in reality as it is, not in this formulated, fabricated reality that we have between our ears most of the time when we function in the world. That's the reality. Our senses continuously bombard us with information, and then the way we process it is fabricated. And so to be grounded in that reality in Zazen, that's an experience that is, palpable. So of course, the more you do that, the more connected you are to that knowledge, to that understanding, deep understanding. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for your talk and everyone's discussion. Just a little bit of background, because I practiced within the Tibetan Vajrayana tradition for a long time before coming to this Sangha. And it's interesting that my practice evolved into basically just sitting, which is why I'm now attracted to Treeleaf. So in my past, I had the Vinaya vows for a little while. So I had 33 vows, let alone the 16, precepts. Some of them obviously it's like, don't sleep on a high bed, which was defined like over 12 inches, which is like, well, my bed is over 12 inches. Do I have to buy a new bed? So, and that wasn't the point, the point was like, don't be arrogant is basically what it's saying. So it took me a while to, break down. It's like, no, it's not following the letter. And it's very true that you want to come back to your awareness, to basic awareness. So also in the Tibetan tradition, it's said that eventually you could keep all the Vinaya vows. You can keep all the Bodhisattva vows, but coming back to awareness is the ultimate vow that you're taking. And you break that as much as the dust is in the air, because you just need to continually come back to that all the time. So just wanted to end with that.
Thank you very much for that. For the longest time, I was under this conflicted mind. Kote knows this better than anyone. The Buddha set out the Vinaya. The Vinaya is important, and the Japanese and the Chinese got rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you realize, well, technically, the Bodhisattva precepts are what's actually complete and impossible to fully keep. The Vinaya is keepable. Let me start by that. Whoever says that the Vinaya is not keepable, no, the Vinaya is perfectly keepable. It's refined to a point where you can keep it. It doesn't start with a simple precept. It starts with a formulation, and then people go, and for I don't know how long they break those rules until the Buddha comes with the formulation that's like, okay, this one's gonna work, and then everyone can keep it. The Bodhisattva precepts, and I think I've said this on Wednesday at our discussion, the Bodhisattva precepts, to me, it's a funny thing. It sounds like when, in the other religion, Moses came down from the mountain with the tablets. He had 12 grand statements that said, do not kill, do not lie, do not steal. They were precepts. It didn't specify in which situations what exemptions are from the rule and things like that. It took days, weeks, months before the people came to Moses and were like, if my wife cheats on me, can I kill her? What if she cheats on me with my brother? What if my brother has a donkey that he stole from me and he also slept with my wife? And so it turned into hundreds of tiny little, just petty rules that people were able to follow in specific situations. And I think in that sense, the Vinaya is a bit like that. Is, any rule in the Vinaya, you can take it and you can find under what precept it exists. And so to take the Bodhisattva precepts is a commitment to awareness, like we said, and to nurturing wisdom. Without the wisdom of understanding that precept itself, in all of its different facets, because it does not have a fixed form that you can cling to, that's a humongous thing.
Yeah.
Prajna, sila, and meditation, right? Anyone else would like to be brave and speak up? Guys, Esteban, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. As we started with these precepts and studying them and reading them, I was thinking about them, and when the whirlpool of life suck you in, and you conditioned to react the way you don't want. For me, these precepts and the map, showing the direction how to go on the surface. So I'm not perfect. I'm not acting perfectly, but I see what is the perfect, and I strive to achieve that. Also, the zazen, it's like the anchor that put me down in the daily life. So that's the way I see the precepts. Not the I'm the perfect in the perfect condition, and but give me the way. What is the perfection?
That's beautiful. Thank you. I think if you had to connect that to something, I would connect it to our Bodhisattva vow of realizing that delusions, that which leads us astray, they're inexhaustible. And what we commit to doing, in some wordings we say extinguish them, but at Treeleaf we say transform them. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Mado, go ahead. Oh, someone else had their hands up too. Vic.
Yeah. So,
1 second, Mado. Go ahead, Vic.
Okay, so just very briefly, when folks were talking about this stuff, it occurred to me, the Bodhisattva precepts and our 4 Bodhisattva vows, they're kind of like going to the gym. You don't ever reach a magical point where you have now achieved, the I don't know, Platonic ideal of physical culture, and now you don't have to go work out anymore. You're locked in forever. You have to keep going. And so, which is something I've struggled with over the years. It's like, oh, you mean I have to do this forever? but also that's very reassuring too, because, well, yeah, you have to keep doing it forever, but that means if you skip a day, just go back tomorrow, and so it's interesting to me that in that endlessness of it, there's also some reassurance. So that's fine.
Thank you. Maro, go ahead.
What Stefan said about this whirlpool that sucks you down, it reminded me last time that we were talking about karma and the ripples. And I see the precepts as a great protection to that round and round and round and round.
That's a wonderful little example. That's excellent. Sometimes we tend to think that we are absolute victims in the whirlpool of causes and conditions. And the Buddha specifically said you are not victims. When the ripples come back to you and they like kind of tickle your back, there's a moment where you can choose to act. You're not a victim of causes and conditions. You are someone that can take action and practice with that and make a change. Precisely why I think when he was asked to name a successor, now we can go into the story of Mahayana Buddhism and all that, but when the Buddha was asked to name a successor, he said the Dharma is the successor. You don't need someone else to lead you. Like, be independent. That's the one thing that he always insisted on. Independence. Be an independent person. Truly understand in your bones the Dharma. Devotion to Dharma. Take refuge in the Dharma. Take refuge in awakening. That's going to keep you. And, you know, when we do that, we're entrusted with the precepts to be like, okay, here's also a little set of formulated, codified, nice little tools. Did someone else have the hand up or what? No. I'm kind of hoping Jason will give us another one of those wonderful.
Well, I'll say thank you. It was a great talk, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
I mean, I really like I wrote it down. I really like the commitment to awareness concept, which I think, you know, I frequently find the precept, you know, and I think you may someone wrote it in the, you know, in the forum. Like, frequently at work, you find it's like the easiest place to sort of criticize others, and I constantly catch myself doing it, and I like framing it in similarly to like when you're sitting and you realize you're lost in thought, and like bringing it back around, and sort of the commitment to awareness with just, you know, trying to follow the precepts, right, and being aware when you're not following it. And then it helps you the next time, you know, hopefully you'll catch yourself before, you know, you say it, right? So thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you for the excellent making yourself available expression, which I think like maybe 3 or 4 of us have already used on the forum in the discussion because it was that good. And I think that applies here too. We'll make ourselves available to the precepts that manifest themselves naturally, and we'll make ourselves available to awakening, to inform the way we engage with day-to-day life. What time is it? Oh, look at that. It's almost like it was planned for it to be like almost an hour and a half. Would anyone else like to say something that's going to shatter our world and awaken all of us? Remember, awakening can be triggered with the staff, with the whisk, with the word. So, you know, we're all available. No one, nothing else. Okay, well then I will wholeheartedly thank you, all of you, for your presence here today and throughout these 4 months. You have been an example of dedication to the study, to the practice. We've seen each other so very often, and I hope it continues, by the way. I realized last Wednesday that next Wednesday for our precept discussion is the 24th of December. So it's probably like a 50-50. You guys are going to be there or not. I'm going to be there. I forgot it's Christmas. So hopefully we continue our discussions, and we're going to continue throughout the first 2 weeks of January, something like that. So there's more opportunity for all of you to come, and those discussions are fantastic. It's such a wonderful time spent together. And then I cannot wait to see all of you at Jukai. I really cannot wait to hear you all, to see you put on your rakusus, and then hopefully for you to become nurturers for the next generation of eager practitioners that come to Treeleaf. And they will come. You will see them slowly dripping in. And they're going to be studying with us next year in September, October, November, and then take the precepts. So I'm grateful to all of you and appreciate all of you. And thank you very much for being here. You're all amazing people. Now go have a wonderful rest of your day. See some of you tomorrow morning for practice for Zazenkai. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mado. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Chico. Bye, Vic.
Bye.